David Harper stares at security footage from his own kitchen. His 7-year-old daughter tries the refrigerator. Padlocked. The pantry. Padlocked. She gives up, walks away hungry. The officer beside him asks quietly, "Did you know?" Before we dive in, comment where in the world you are watching from, and don't forget to click subscribe. Ms. Rodriguez noticed the way Lily Harper's eyes followed the granola bar as she pulled it from her desk drawer. It was a Tuesday morning, barely past 9, and most of the second graders were still settling into their seats, chattering about weekend adventures and trading Pokemon cards. But Lily stood frozen at the edge of Ms. Rodriguez's desk, her small hands clutching the straps of her backpack so tightly that her knuckles had gone white. The fluorescent lights overhead cast shadows under the girl's eyes, dark circles that seemed too pronounced for a 7-year-old. "Good morning, Lily," Ms. Rodriguez said, keeping her voice light and warm. She'd been teaching for 12 years, long enough to recognize when something was wrong. The child hadn't moved since entering the classroom 5 minutes ago, hadn't joined her usual group of friends near the reading corner. "Did you need something, sweetie?" Lily's gaze darted from the granola bar to Ms. Rodriguez's face, then back to the snack. She opened her mouth, closed it, then whispered something so quietly that Ms. Rodriguez had to lean forward. "I'm sorry. What was that?" "Can I?" Lily's voice cracked slightly. "Can I have that? Please." The way she said please carried a weight that made Ms. Rodriguez's chest tighten. It wasn't the casual request of a child hoping for a treat. It was something else entirely. Something desperate and careful at the same time, as though Lily was terrified the answer might be no. "Of course you can," Ms. Rodriguez said, extending the granola bar. She watched as Lily's trembling fingers closed around it, watched as the girl's eyes filled with something that looked uncomfortably close to tears. "Lily, honey, didn't you have breakfast this morning?" The question hung in the air between them. Around the classroom, children laughed and called to each other. Someone knocked over a pencil case, sending crayons scattering across the floor. But in this small pocket of space, Lily Harper stood perfectly still, the unopened granola bar pressed against her chest like something precious. "I wasn't hungry," she finally said, but her stomach chose that moment to growl audibly, betraying the lie. Ms. Rodriguez felt something cold settle in her gut. This wasn't the first time she'd noticed things about Lily. The girl had always been quiet, perhaps a bit withdrawn, but over the past 2 months something had shifted. The bright-eyed child who used to volunteer answers and giggle during story time had been replaced by this pale, careful version who seemed to be folding in on herself. "Why don't you go ahead and eat that?" Ms. Rodriguez suggested gently. "I have some crackers too if you'd like." Lily's eyes widened. "Really?" "Really." The girl's hand shook as she tore open the granola bar wrapper. She ate it quickly, almost frantically, and when Ms. Rodriguez produced a sleeve of saltines from her emergency snack supply, Lily devoured those too. 6 crackers disappeared in less than a minute. Ms. Rodriguez waited until Lily had finished before asking, "When was the last time you ate, sweetheart?" Lily's face went carefully blank, a look Ms. Rodriguez had seen before on children who'd learned that the truth could be dangerous. "Yesterday. At lunch. Here." That had been more than 20 hours ago. Ms. Rodriguez's mind raced through the protocols, the procedures she'd been trained to follow. She thought about Lily's father, David Harper, who'd come to parent-teacher conferences alone back in September. He'd seemed nice enough, attentive, and concerned about his daughter's progress. And she thought about the stepmother she'd never met, Vanessa, who David had mentioned was adjusting to being a parent after their marriage 6 months ago. "Does your stepmom pack your lunch, Lily?" The girl's expression shuddered completely. "Sometimes. Can I go sit down now? I should do my morning work." She was already backing away, clearly desperate to end the conversation. Ms. Rodriguez wanted to press, wanted to ask a dozen more questions, but she also knew that pushing too hard could make a frightened child clam up entirely. "Of course, honey. And Lily, if you're ever hungry, you can always ask me, okay?" Lily nodded, but she wouldn't meet Ms. Rodriguez's eyes anymore. She hurried to her seat, pulled out her workbook, and bent over it with an intensity that seemed calculated to discourage any further conversation. The morning progressed normally on the surface. Ms. Rodriguez taught her lessons on subtraction with regrouping and read aloud from Charlotte's Web. But part of her attention never left Lily Harper, who sat hunched in her seat, completing every assignment with a focus that bordered on anxiety. When lunchtime arrived, Ms. Rodriguez watched carefully as Lily approached the cafeteria line. The girl carried no lunchbox, no brown paper bag. She stood in line with her shoulders rounded, her head down, moving forward with the other children until she reached the register. Ms. Rodriguez couldn't hear the exchange from across the cafeteria, but she saw the lunch lady shake her head, saw Lily's shoulders drop even further, saw the girl turn away from the line without any food. Ms. Rodriguez was at her side in seconds. "Lily, what's wrong? Where's your lunch?" "I forgot it," Lily mumbled. "It's okay. I'm not really hungry anyway." Another lie, and this one was even more transparent than the first. Ms. Rodriguez checked her own meal account on her phone, the one the school had set up for faculty to buy student lunches in emergency situations. "Tell you what," she said, "I'm going to buy you lunch today." "What sounds good?" Lily's head snapped up, her eyes wide and shining. "You don't have to do that." "I want to. Come on, let's get you some food." The girl's restraint broke. She grabbed a tray with shaking hands and loaded it with items she clearly wanted desperately, but was trying not to seem too eager about. A slice of cheese pizza, an apple, a carton of chocolate milk. Ms. Rodriguez paid without comment, but her concern was growing into something harder and colder. This wasn't just a forgotten lunch. This was a pattern. She spent her planning period that afternoon pulling up Lily's records. The family had moved to Riverside Elementary at the start of the school year, transferring from a different district after David Harper's remarriage. Lily's academic performance had been solid in first grade, her previous teachers noting that she was a pleasure to have in class and eager to participate. But her current grades told a different story. Her focus had deteriorated. She'd turned in 3 assignments incomplete in the past week alone. Ms. Rodriguez also noticed that Lily's emergency contact information listed only her father's work number and cell phone. No contact information for Vanessa Harper, the stepmother. That struck her as odd. When the dismissal bell rang, Ms. Rodriguez watched as Lily gathered her things with the same careful precision she'd displayed all day. The girl moved toward the exit, her backpack seeming to weigh her down despite being noticeably empty. No homework folders stuffed with papers, no library books. Just a single thin workbook and a pencil case. "Lily," Ms. Rodriguez called out just as the girl reached the doorway. "Hang on a second, sweetie." Lily froze, that same terrified stillness from the morning returning to her posture. "I just wanted to give you something." Ms. Rodriguez pulled a brown paper bag from her desk, one she'd assembled during lunch using supplies from the teacher's lounge. 2 more granola bars, a bag of pretzels, an orange, a juice box. Some snacks for after school. Lily stared at the bag like it might disappear if she looked away. When she took it, her hands trembled again. "Thank you," she whispered. Then so quietly, Ms. Rodriguez almost missed it. "Please don't tell." The word sent a chill down Ms. Rodriguez's spine. "Don't tell who, honey?" But Lily was already gone, hurrying out the door with the paper bag clutched against her chest, disappearing into the crowd of children flooding toward the buses and parent pickup line. Ms. Rodriguez stood alone in her empty classroom, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, dust motes dancing in the light. Everything looked normal, peaceful even. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. That evening she called Dr. Patricia Morrison, the school principal, and explained what had happened. Dr. Morrison listened carefully, asking questions, taking notes. She'd been a principal for 18 years and had developed instincts about these situations. "I'll look into it," she promised. "In the meantime, keep documenting. If she asks for food again, give it to her. And let me know immediately if anything else concerns you." Ms. Rodriguez hung up feeling both relieved and anxious. She'd done the right thing by reporting her concerns, but she couldn't stop thinking about Lily's whispered plea. Please don't tell. Who was the girl so afraid of? And what exactly didn't she want anyone to know? The next morning, Wednesday, Lily arrived at school even earlier than usual. She was one of the first students off the bus, and she went directly to Ms. Rodriguez's classroom. The teacher was at her desk, preparing materials for the day's math lesson, when she heard the soft knock. "Come in." Lily slipped through the door like a shadow. She looked exhausted, as though she hadn't slept, and there was something fragile in the way she held herself. "Good morning," Ms. Rodriguez said warmly. "You're here early." Lily's voice failed. She tried again. "Do you have any more crackers?" The question broke Ms. Rodriguez's heart. She immediately opened her desk drawer, where she'd stocked additional supplies the night before after her conversation with Dr. Morrison. Granola bars, crackers, small bags of trail mix, fruit cups. "I have lots of things," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "What would you like?" Lily's eyes scanned the offerings with desperate hunger. "Can I have 2 things?" "I know that's a lot, but I'm really hungry and—" "Lily, honey, you can have as much as you need." Ms. Rodriguez pulled out multiple items and set them on her desk. "Here, take what you want, and if you need more later, just ask." The girl grabbed 4 items quickly, stuffing them into her backpack before looking up at Ms. Rodriguez with guilty, frightened eyes. "I'm sorry. I don't mean to be greedy." "You're not being greedy, sweetheart. You're hungry. That's okay." Ms. Rodriguez crouched down so she was at eye level with the child. "Lily, I need you to be honest with me about something. Are you getting enough to eat at home?" The girl's face went pale. She backed up a step, shaking her head. "I'm fine. Everything's fine. Vanessa makes dinner every night. She's a really good cook." But her voice carried a rehearsed quality, as though she'd practiced those exact words. As though someone had told her what to say if anyone ever asked questions. "What about breakfast?" Ms. Rodriguez pressed gently. Lily's hands clutched the straps of her backpack. "I'm not hungry in the mornings usually. Lots of kids skip breakfast. And last night? Did you have dinner?" Something flickered across Lily's face. Fear, shame, a desperate need to lie convincingly enough to make the question stop. "Yes," she said firmly. "Chicken and rice." It was good. Ms. Rodriguez didn't believe her for a second, but she also recognized that Lily was on the verge of bolting. Whatever was happening at home, the girl was either too scared or too loyal to talk about it. "Okay, honey. But remember what I said. If you need food, you come to me. Anytime, okay?" Lily nodded quickly and retreated to her desk, pulling out the snacks she'd just collected and eating them with the same frantic urgency as before. Within 5 minutes, she'd consumed 2 granola bars and a package of crackers. Ms. Rodriguez watched, documenting everything mentally, knowing she'd need to report this to Dr. Morrison as soon as possible. Other students began arriving, filling the classroom with their typical morning energy, but Lily remained apart, quiet and withdrawn, focused on her workbook as though it could protect her from unwanted attention. During the morning announcements, Ms. Rodriguez noticed the girl's eyes growing heavy, her head beginning to nod forward before she'd jerk herself awake, clearly fighting exhaustion. At recess, instead of joining her classmates on the playground, Lily sat against the building in the shade, her eyes closed, looking small and defeated. Ms. Rodriguez approached her. "Don't you want to play, sweetie?" Lily opened her eyes slowly. "I'm just tired." "Did you not sleep well last night?" A pause. Then, "I sleep fine." Another lie, transparent as glass. Ms. Rodriguez sat down beside her, not touching, just being present. "You know, Lily, if something is bothering you at home, you can tell me. I'm here to help you, not to get you in trouble." The girl's eyes filled with tears that she blinked back furiously. For a moment, Miss Rodriguez thought she might actually open up. But then Lily's expression hardened into that same careful blankness. "Nothing's bothering me. Vanessa's nice. Dad's happy. Everything's good." The way she said it made it sound like a mantra, something she'd been told to believe and repeat until everyone else believed it too. Ms. Rodriguez didn't push further, but as soon as recess ended and the children were engaged in silent reading, she sent a quick email to Dr. Morrison. Second day in a row, asking for food immediately upon arrival, refusing to discuss home situation, appears exhausted, Request meeting as soon as possible. The response came back within minutes. My office. 2:30 during your planning period. Dr. Morrison's office was located in the front of the building, with windows overlooking the main entrance and parking lot. She was a tall woman, with silver hair and kind eyes that had seen their share of difficult situations. When Ms. Rodriguez arrived that afternoon, the principal already had a folder open on her desk. Tell me everything, she said without preamble. Ms. Rodriguez recounted the past 2 days in detail, describing Lily's desperate request for food, her obvious hunger, her exhaustion, and her carefully practiced denials that anything was wrong. She mentioned the forgotten lunches, the way the girl seemed terrified of someone finding out she'd asked for help. Dr. Morrison listened, taking notes, her expression growing more serious with each detail. I pulled her records this morning, the principal said when Ms. Rodriguez finished. Her previous school flagged nothing concerning. She was a thriving student until the family relocated. The transfer happened in August, right after David Harper married Vanessa Chen. According to the enrollment forms, Lily's biological mother passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. Ms. Rodriguez felt a pang of sympathy. So Lily had already suffered the loss of her mother before gaining a stepmother, who apparently wasn't feeding her properly. I also made some calls, Dr. Morrison continued. Discreet inquiries to her previous school. Lily's first-grade teacher remembered her as a happy, well-adjusted child. She said David Harper was very involved, always at school events, very concerned about his daughter's well-being. The teacher did mention that toward the end of the year, David had seemed stressed, but she attributed it to grief and single parenthood. So the problem started after the remarriage, Ms. Rodriguez said. It appears that way. Which brings us to the question of what we do next. Dr. Morrison leaned back in her chair. We have a child who's clearly not getting adequate nutrition at home. She's asking teachers for food. She's exhausted. She's scared. But she's also denying everything, which makes this complicated. What if we call her father? Ms. Rodriguez suggested. Maybe he doesn't know what's happening. That's possible. It's also possible he's complicit. Or that calling him would alert the stepmother and make things worse for Lily. Dr. Morrison tapped her pen against the desk. Here's what I want you to do. Continue documenting everything. Give her food whenever she asks. I'm going to make some calls to the county social services office, just to get guidance on the situation. And I want to try to observe Lily at dismissal, see who picks her up, get a sense of the family dynamic. Ms. Rodriguez agreed, though she left the meeting feeling frustrated. Documentation and observation seemed passive when a 7-year-old was going hungry. But she also understood the need to be careful, to follow proper procedures, to avoid making accusations without sufficient evidence. The rest of the week followed a disturbing pattern. Each morning, Lily arrived early and asked Miss Rodriguez for food. Each time, the girl ate as though she couldn't be certain when she'd get another meal. At lunch, she had no packed food and no money in her account. Ms. Rodriguez bought her lunch every day, and each time Lily's gratitude was almost painful to witness. By Friday, Dr. Morrison had observed dismissal 3 times. She'd seen a woman matching Vanessa Harper's description pick Lily up in a silver SUV. The interactions appeared normal from a distance. Lily climbing into the vehicle, Vanessa saying something, Lily nodding. Nothing obviously concerning. But Dr. Morrison noticed that Lily's shoulders curved inward before she got in the car. Noticed the way the girl seemed to become even smaller as the vehicle pulled away. That evening, Dr. Morrison received a call from the county social services hotline. She'd reported her concerns earlier in the week, carefully detailing the observations without making explicit accusations. The caseworker who called her back sounded sympathetic, but constrained. Without direct evidence of abuse or neglect, it's difficult to intervene, the woman explained. A child being hungry at school could be explained by many things. Maybe she's not eating the breakfast provided. Maybe she's going through a growth spurt. Maybe there's a medical issue affecting her appetite at home. She's begging for food, Dr. Morrison said, unable to keep the frustration from her voice. That's not normal. I understand your concern. Keep documenting. If you see bruises, if she makes a direct disclosure of abuse, if the situation escalates, call us immediately. But right now, we don't have enough to open an investigation. Dr. Morrison hung up feeling defeated. The system designed to protect children had just told her that a hungry 7-year-old wasn't enough of a crisis to warrant action. But on Monday morning, everything changed. Lily arrived at school before the buses had even finished unloading. She ran to Ms. Rodriguez's classroom, her face streaked with tears she'd obviously been trying to hide. Her backpack bounced against her small frame as she burst through the door. "Ms. Rodriguez," she gasped. The composure she'd maintained all week had shattered. "Please. I'm so hungry, it hurts." Ms. Rodriguez felt her own eyes fill with tears. She immediately pulled the child into her classroom and closed the door, giving them privacy. From her desk, she grabbed every snack she had and spread them out. "Take what you need, baby. Take all of it if you want." Lily grabbed items with shaking hands, tearing open packages and eating so fast she was nearly choking. Granola bars, crackers, a banana, cheese sticks, apple slices. Ms. Rodriguez watched, horrified, as the girl consumed enough food for several meals, her small stomach visibly distending. When Lily finally slowed down, she looked up at Ms. Rodriguez with red-rimmed eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know I'm eating too much." "Lily, no, you have nothing to apologize for." Ms. Rodriguez knelt beside the girl. "Sweetheart, I need you to tell me what's happening at home. I can't help you if I don't know what's wrong." The girl's face crumpled. "I can't." She said, "I can't tell anyone or it'll be my fault if Dad gets in trouble." There it was. The confirmation Ms. Rodriguez had been dreading and expecting in equal measure. Someone, presumably Vanessa, was actively preventing Lily from seeking help, threatening her with consequences if she did. "Lily, listen to me very carefully. Nothing that's happening is your fault. Not now, not ever. And your dad won't get in trouble for you telling the truth. I promise." Ms. Rodriguez kept her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest. "What did Vanessa tell you?" The girl's resistance collapsed. Exhaustion, hunger, fear. It all came pouring out in a torrent of words. "She locks the fridge," Lily sobbed, "and the pantry. She puts padlocks on them before she goes to bed, and she says I'm not allowed to eat except at dinner because I'm getting fat, and I waste food, and I need to learn discipline. But dinner is small, and I'm so hungry all the time, and I asked Dad, but he said, Vanessa knows best about kids even though she's never had any. And when I tried to get food at night, she caught me, and she took my allowance and said next time she'd tell Dad I was stealing and—" Ms. Rodriguez pulled the sobbing child into her arms, fury and heartbreak warring in her chest. Lily clung to her small body shaking with the force of her tears, years of fear and hunger and loneliness pouring out all at once. "It's okay," Ms. Rodriguez murmured. "You're safe. You did the right thing by telling me. I'm going to make sure you're okay." She held Lily until the girl's sobs subsided into hiccups, until her breathing steadied. Then she gently guided her to a chair. The girl's face was blotchy and red, her eyes swollen from crying. She looked younger than 7 in that moment, fragile and breakable in a way that made Ms. Rodriguez's heart physically ache. "Lily, I need you to understand something very important," Ms. Rodriguez said, crouching down so they were eye level. She kept her voice gentle but firm. "What Vanessa is doing is wrong. Adults are supposed to feed children. They're supposed to make sure you have enough to eat, locking food away from you, telling you that you're greedy or wasteful for being hungry. That's not okay. It's not normal. And it's absolutely not your fault." Lily's lower lip trembled. "But she says I eat too much. She says American kids don't know how to have discipline." "Sweetheart, you're a growing child. Your body needs food. Lots of food. That's how you grow strong and healthy. There's no such thing as a 7-year-old eating too much when they're genuinely hungry." Ms. Rodriguez felt anger burning in her chest, but she kept it out of her voice. Lily didn't need to see adult rage right now. She needed calm, steady reassurance. "Has Vanessa ever hurt you in other ways? Hit you or pushed you?" Lily shook her head quickly. "No, she doesn't hit. She gets really mad. Her face gets all tight and scary. And she says things that make me feel bad, like I'm a burden. Like Dad would be happier if I wasn't so difficult." Ms. Rodriguez closed her eyes briefly, fighting the urge to say what she really thought about Vanessa Chen. "You are not a burden. You are a child who deserves love and care and 3 meals a day at minimum. Do you understand me? I think so, Lily whispered. She twisted her hands in her lap, a nervous gesture Ms. Rodriguez had seen her do dozens of times over the past weeks. What's going to happen now? Are you going to call my dad? I'm going to call Dr. Morrison first. She's the principal, and she needs to know what's been happening. Then we're going to figure out the best way to keep you safe. Your dad might need to know, but we're going to handle this very carefully. Ms. Rodriguez reached out and squeezed Lily's small hand. I know you're scared, but I promise you, we're not going to let Vanessa hurt you anymore. Lily's eyes filled with fresh tears. She's going to be so mad when she finds out I told. She's going to say I ruined everything. Then she'll be mad at me and Dr. Morrison, not at you. Because we're the adults making the decisions now. You just did what any smart, brave kid should do. You asked for help when you needed it. Ms. Rodriguez stood and moved to her desk, pulling out a box of tissues. She handed several to Lily, who wiped her face with shaking hands. I'm going to step right outside the door to make a phone call. I'll be able to see you the whole time through the window, okay? I'm not leaving you. Lily nodded, clutching the tissues like a lifeline. Ms. Rodriguez stepped into the hallway, leaving the classroom door open so she could keep Lily in her line of sight. The girl sat perfectly still in the chair, staring at her lap, looking lost and alone despite being surrounded by cheerful classroom decorations and student artwork. Ms. Rodriguez's hands shook as she pulled out her cell phone and dialed Dr. Morrison's office. The principal answered on the second ring. This is Patricia Morrison. Dr. Morrison, it's Angela Rodriguez. I need you in my classroom immediately. We have an emergency situation with Lily Harper. Ms. Rodriguez kept her voice low but urgent. She just disclosed abuse, food deprivation. Her stepmother is locking the refrigerator and pantry and withholding meals. I have a 7-year-old who just told me she's starving in her own home. There was a brief pause. Then Dr. Morrison's voice came back crisp and decisive. I'm coming now. Don't let her out of your sight. I'm bringing my incident report forms. Have you called anyone else? Not yet. I wanted you here first. Good. I'll be there in 2 minutes. Ms. Rodriguez hung up and took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. In 12 years of teaching, she'd suspected abuse before. She'd made reports. But something about Lily's case was hitting her harder than usual. Maybe it was the girl's desperate politeness even while begging for food. Maybe it was the way she apologized for eating. Maybe it was the image of a child lying in bed at night with her stomach cramping while the adults who were supposed to care for her slept peacefully on the other side of a locked door. She stepped back into the classroom. Lily hadn't moved. The girl looked up when Ms. Rodriguez approached, her expression anxious and hopeful at the same time. Dr. Morrison is coming, Ms. Rodriguez said gently. She's going to want to hear what you told me. Is that okay? Can you tell her the same things? Lily's face went pale. Do I have to? I know it's hard to talk about. But yes, sweetheart. It's important that you tell her. The more adults who know what's happening, the better we can help you. Will you stay with me while I talk to her? Every single second. I won't leave your side. Ms. Rodriguez pulled up a chair and sat down next to Lily. They waited in silence, the classroom clock ticking loudly in the quiet. Outside in the hallway, Ms. Rodriguez could hear the normal sounds of a school day. Children's voices, footsteps, a teacher laughing at something. Everything continuing as usual while in this one small room, a child's world was breaking open. Lily broke the silence with a question so soft Ms. Rodriguez almost missed it. Will I have to go back there today? To the house? The fear in her voice was palpable. Ms. Rodriguez chose her words carefully, not wanting to make promises she couldn't keep but desperately wanting to reassure this terrified child. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I can tell you this. Nobody is going to make you go anywhere you don't feel safe. Dr. Morrison and I are going to do everything we can to protect you, okay? Lily nodded, but her hands were trembling again. I'm scared of what happens next. I know, baby. Change is scary, even when it's good change. But what's been happening to you can't continue. You understand that, right? You can't keep going hungry. Your body needs food to grow and be healthy. Sometimes I get dizzy, Lily admitted quietly. In the afternoons. And my stomach hurts a lot at night. Sometimes I can't sleep because of it. Ms. Rodriguez felt her jaw clench. Physical symptoms. More evidence of what this child had been enduring. When Dr. Morrison gets here, I want you to tell her that too. Tell her everything. Even the parts that seem small or unimportant. All of it matters. Before Lily could respond, there was a knock at the door. Dr. Morrison entered, her expression serious but kind. She carried a folder and a bottle of water, which she immediately offered to Lily. "Hello, Lily," she said warmly, pulling up another chair to form a small circle with Ms. Rodriguez and the child. "Ms. Rodriguez tells me you've been very brave this morning. I'm so glad you felt safe enough to talk to her." Lily accepted the water bottle with both hands, holding it against her chest without opening it. She glanced at Ms. Rodriguez, who nodded encouragingly. "It's okay, sweetie. You can tell Dr. Morrison what you told me." And so Lily began again, her voice halting and uncertain at first, then gaining strength as the words poured out. She told Dr. Morrison about the locks, about the small dinners, about lying in bed hungry while the refrigerator hummed just down the hall, tantalizingly close and impossibly out of reach. She told her about Vanessa's threats, about being called greedy and ungrateful, about the fear of causing problems for her father, who seemed happy for the first time since her mother's death. Dr. Morrison listened without interrupting, taking occasional notes, but mostly just focusing completely on Lily's words. When the girl finished, the principal set down her pen and looked at her with eyes full of compassion and determination. "Lily, I want to thank you for being so honest with us. I know that took a lot of courage. Now I need to ask you a very important question, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Do you feel safe going home today?" Lily's breath hitched. "I don't know. Vanessa's going to know I told. She always knows when I do something wrong." "How will she know?" Ms. Rodriguez asked gently. She can tell. She looks at me and she knows. And then she gets quiet and cold and dinner gets even smaller and she tells Dad I'm not feeling well, that I said I wasn't hungry." Lily's voice broke. "I can't go back there. Please don't make me go back there." Dr. Morrison and Miss Rodriguez exchanged a look. The principal's expression was grim but resolute. "Sweetheart, nobody is going to make you do anything," Dr. Morrison said firmly. "But I need to make some phone calls now to make sure you're safe. Important phone calls to people whose job it is to help children. Is that okay?" Lily's eyes widened with understanding and terror. "You're going to call the police?" "Yes," Dr. Morrison said, not sugarcoating it. "Because what's happening to you is serious, and we need serious help to fix it. The police have people who are specially trained to help kids in difficult situations. They're going to want to talk to you, probably today. But Ms. Rodriguez will be with you, and so will I. You won't be alone." A tear rolled down Lily's cheek. "Is my dad going to get in trouble?" The question revealed so much about the child's burden. She'd been carrying not just her own suffering, but worry about protecting her father too. Ms. Rodriguez wanted to gather her up and take her somewhere safe right that instant, wanted to feed her and let her sleep and promise her that everything would be okay. But they had to follow procedure. They had to do this right. "Lily, your dad needs to know what's been happening," Dr. Morrison said carefully. "Whether he gets in trouble depends on what he knew and what he did about it. But right now, our concern is you, making sure you're safe and healthy. Everything else comes after that." Lily wiped her eyes and nodded slowly. Some of the tension seemed to leave her small shoulders, as though sharing the burden had made it lighter even though the situation itself remained unchanged. She looked exhausted, wrung out from crying and confessing and reliving her trauma. But there was also something else in her expression, a tiny flicker of hope, fragile as a candle flame in the wind. "I'm going to take care of you," Ms. Rodriguez promised, reaching out to hold Lily's hand. "We both are." "You're not alone anymore." Dr. Morrison stood, folder in hand. "I'm going to my office to make those calls now. Lily, you're going to stay here with Miss Rodriguez. When I come back, there will probably be some other adults with me. Maybe a police officer, maybe someone from child services. They're all going to be people who want to help. Does that sound okay? Okay, Lily whispered. As Dr. Morrison left the classroom, the weight of what came next settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Ms. Rodriguez looked at this small, brave child who'd finally found the courage to speak her truth, and she silently vowed that Lily would never regret that decision. Whatever happened next, whatever difficult conversations and changes lay ahead, this girl would be protected. She would be fed. She would be safe, and Vanessa Chen would answer for every single day she'd locked that refrigerator door while a hungry child cried herself to sleep on the other side. "I want you to stay here with me for a little while," Ms. Rodriguez said softly. "I'm going to talk to Dr. Morrison, and we're going to figure this out together." "Okay?" Lily nodded, too tired to do anything else. Ms. Rodriguez settled her at the reading corner with a book and a bottle of water, then stepped into the hallway to call the principal's office. Her hand shook as she dialed the extension. "This is an emergency," she said when Dr. Morrison answered. "I need you in my classroom right now." The principal arrived within 2 minutes, her expression immediately shifting to alarm when she saw Lily curled up in the reading corner, her face blotchy from crying, surrounded by empty snack wrappers. Ms. Rodriguez pulled Dr. Morrison aside and relayed everything Lily had disclosed. As she spoke, she watched the principal's face harden with resolve. "That's it," Dr. Morrison said quietly. "This is reportable abuse. We're calling now." She looked at Lily, compassion softening her features. "Lily, sweetheart, Ms. Rodriguez and I need to make some phone calls. You're going to stay here with Ms. Rodriguez while I go to my office. You're not in trouble. We're going to help you. Do you understand?" Lily nodded, looking terrified but also relieved, as though a weight she'd been carrying alone for months was finally being shared. Dr. Morrison returned to her office and immediately dialed 911. When the dispatcher answered, she spoke clearly and calmly, her years of administrative experience lending authority to her words. "This is Dr. Patricia Morrison, principal at Riverside Elementary School. I need to report child neglect, and I need an officer dispatched immediately. We have a 7-year-old student who has disclosed that her stepmother is intentionally withholding food by locking the refrigerator and pantry. The child has been asking teachers for food daily, appears malnourished, and is clearly being denied adequate nutrition at home." The dispatcher asked standard questions. How long had this been occurring? Had the child been seen by medical personnel? Were there signs of physical abuse beyond the neglect? Dr. Morrison answered each question precisely. "The behavioral changes started approximately 2 months ago. The child appears underweight for her age and height. She's showing signs of prolonged hunger, including fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and emotional distress. She's been eating multiple meals worth of food when given access, and she's stated that her stepmother has threatened her to prevent her from disclosing this situation. We're sending an officer to your location now," the dispatcher confirmed. "Please keep the child safe and secure. Don't contact the parents yet." "Understood." Dr. Morrison hung up and sat for a moment, her hands flat on her desk, steadying herself. In 18 years as a principal, she'd made difficult calls before. She'd reported suspected abuse, intervened in custody disputes, navigated family crises. But something about Lily's case pierced through her professional armor. Maybe it was the girl's careful politeness even while starving. Maybe it was the way she'd apologized for eating too much. Maybe it was the locks on the refrigerator, the deliberate cruelty of denying a child food in a house that presumably had plenty. She returned to Ms. Rodriguez's classroom to find the teacher reading quietly to Lily, who had stopped crying but still looked fragile and scared. Other students would arrive soon, the morning bell would ring, and the day would need to proceed as normally as possible while this crisis unfolded in parallel. "Miss Rodriguez, could I speak with you for a moment?" Dr. Morrison asked. The teacher excused herself and joined the principal in the hallway. "Police are on their way," Dr. Morrison said quietly. "I also called the social services hotline again. Given the disclosure, they're opening an immediate investigation. We need to keep Lily here at school until authorities arrive. Can you have your students work independently when they arrive? I'll arrange for an aide to cover your class. Of course, whatever Lily needs. The police will want to interview her, It won't be easy for her to go through this again, but it's necessary. Stay with her as much as possible. She trusts you." Ms. Rodriguez nodded, blinking back tears. "How could anyone do this to a child?" "I don't know," Dr. Morrison said heavily. "But we're going to make sure it stops today." 20 minutes later, Officer Michael Reeves arrived at the school. He was a veteran of the department with 15 years of experience, including specialized training in child advocacy. He'd seen too many cases like this, though each one still made his blood boil with righteous anger. Dr. Morrison met him at the entrance and led him to her office where they could speak privately before he interviewed Lily. She explained the situation in detail, showing him the documentation they'd compiled over the past week. Dates and times when Lily had asked for food. Photographs Ms. Rodriguez had discreetly taken of the child's lunch account, showing zero balance and no packed lunches. Notes about her behavior, her exhaustion, her weight loss. "This is thorough," Officer Reeves said, impressed. "You've built a solid case. Now I need to talk to the child. Is she in a state to be interviewed?" "She's scared, but she's already disclosed once this morning. Her teacher, Miss Rodriguez, is with her. The child trusts her." They walked together to the classroom, where Lily was sitting at Ms. Rodriguez's desk, coloring with careful, precise movements. When she saw the uniformed officer, she tensed, her eyes going wide. "Lily, this is Officer Reeves," Dr. Morrison said gently. "He's here to help you. He needs to ask you some questions about what you told Miss Rodriguez this morning. Is that okay?" Lily looked at Ms. Rodriguez, who nodded encouragingly. "I'll be right here with you, sweetie." "Okay," Lily whispered. Officer Reeves pulled up a chair and sat down, making sure he was at Lily's eye level rather than looming over her. He'd learned early in his career that children responded better when they didn't feel physically intimidated. "Hi, Lily. I know this is scary, but you're very brave for telling Ms. Rodriguez what's been happening at home. I need you to tell me the same thing, okay? In your own words. Take your time." And so Lily told her story again. This time, with Officer Reeves asking gentle follow-up questions, more details emerged. The locks had been installed about 6 weeks ago, shortly after Lily had gotten up in the middle of the night to make a sandwich. Vanessa had found her in the kitchen and screamed at her for being greedy and ungrateful. The next day, padlocks appeared on both the refrigerator and the pantry cabinet. Dinner was served at 6 o'clock every evening. Usually just a small portion, half a chicken breast, a few vegetables, a spoonful of rice. Lily was never allowed seconds. If she said she was hungry afterward, Vanessa would tell her she needed to learn portion control, that American children ate too much, that discipline started with diet. "What about your dad?" Officer Reeves asked carefully. "Does he know about the locks?" Lily's face crumpled. "He knows about the locks, but Vanessa told him they were to keep me from sneaking junk food. She said I was getting into the cookies and chips at night. Dad believed her. He thinks she's helping me be healthy." "Have you tried to tell your dad you're hungry?" "Once. But Vanessa was there and she gave me this look and I got scared. And then later she told me that if I complained to Dad, he'd be upset with me for being difficult, for making problems in our new family. She said Dad was finally happy again after Mom died and I shouldn't ruin it." Officer Reeves felt his jaw clench. This was textbook manipulation, using a child's love for their parent against them, threatening to destroy family happiness if the child spoke up about abuse. It made him sick. He asked more questions, building a complete picture of Lily's daily life. She described waking up hungry, going to school hungry, eating her small dinner, then lying in bed at night with her stomach cramping while her father and stepmother slept in the next room, presumably unaware of her suffering. Or at least, David Harper had been unaware. Vanessa clearly knew exactly what she was doing. "You're doing great, Lily," Officer Reeves said when the interview concluded. "I know this was hard, but you told the truth, and that was exactly the right thing to do. Now I need to talk to some other people, and Ms. Rodriguez and Dr. Morrison are going to take care of you. Okay?" Lily nodded, looking exhausted. Ms. Rodriguez wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Officer Reeves stepped into the hallway with Dr. Morrison. "I'm calling Child Protective Services right now. This is clear-cut neglect with evidence of emotional abuse. The child needs to be removed from the home immediately for her own safety. We'll also need to interview the father at his workplace before contacting the stepmother. What happens next? Dr. Morrison asked. CPS will send a caseworker to the school to do their own assessment and determine immediate placement. Given that there's a biological father in the picture who may not be aware of the full situation, they'll likely place her with him temporarily while investigating whether he was complicit or simply manipulated. The stepmother will be investigated for child abuse and neglect. Depending on what we find, criminal charges are possible. Dr. Morrison felt relief wash through her. So, Lily won't have to go back to that house tonight. Not unless CPS determines it's safe, which I seriously doubt given what we've learned. More likely, she'll either go with her father to a different location or into temporary foster care while things get sorted out. Thank God, Dr. Morrison breathed. Officer Reeves made his calls. Within an hour, a CPS caseworker named Jennifer Santos arrived at the school. She was a young woman with warm eyes and an efficient manner, someone who clearly cared deeply about her work despite how emotionally draining it must be. She conducted her own interview with Lily, asking many of the same questions Officer Reeves had asked, but also focusing on Lily's emotional state, her understanding of what was happening, and her fears about the future. Lily answered everything honestly, though she kept asking if she was going to be in trouble, if her dad would be mad at her. Sweetheart, none of this is your fault, Jennifer assured her. Your job is to be a kid. It's adults' jobs to take care of you. When an adult isn't doing that, other adults need to step in and make sure you're safe. That's all that's happening here. While Jennifer interviewed Lily, Officer Reeves and another officer went to David Harper's workplace. He was a software engineer at a tech company downtown, and when the officers arrived asking to speak with him privately, he'd gone pale with fear. Is Lily okay? Did something happen? They brought him to a conference room and closed the door. Officer Reeves explained the situation as directly and compassionately as possible, watching as the man's face cycled through disbelief, shock, horror, and finally anguished guilt. Locks on the fridge? David said, his voice breaking. She told me those were to keep Lily out of snacks between meals. She said Lily had been gaining weight, that she was concerned about her health. Mr. Harper, when was the last time you saw your daughter eat a full meal? David opened his mouth to answer, then closed it. His face went ashen. Dinner. We have dinner together every night. Vanessa serves it. The portions they're reasonable. Healthy. He pressed his hands to his face. Oh God, I work late. I'm usually not home until 7. By then, Lily's already had dinner. Vanessa says she fed her at 6 because kids need to eat early. I just see the dishes in the sink and assume. What about breakfast? Officer Reeves asked. Vanessa handles breakfast. She says Lily's not a morning eater, that she just has juice and maybe some fruit before school. I leave for work at 7:30. Lily's bus comes at 8. David's breathing was becoming rapid, panicked. Are you telling me my daughter has been starving? In my house, while I've been there? That's what we're investigating, yes. Your daughter has been asking her teacher for food every morning. She's been eating multiple meals worth of food when given access. She told us that Vanessa locks the refrigerator and pantry at night and provides very small portions at dinner. David made it sound like he'd been punched. I didn't know. I swear to God I didn't know. Vanessa said, she seemed so confident about parenting. She said she was helping Lily develop healthy habits. She said Lily was being dramatic when she complained about being hungry. The kids always want snacks. I trusted her. Lily seemed quiet, but I thought she was just adjusting to having a stepmother. After her mom died, it's been hard for her. I thought she needed time. Officer Reeves watched the man carefully, looking for signs of deception or complicity. But all he saw was a father realizing he'd failed to protect his child, that his trust in his new wife had blinded him to his daughter's suffering. It happened more often than people wanted to believe. Mr. Harper, Child Protective Services is at your daughter's school right now conducting an investigation. You need to understand that Lily will not be returning to your home until this situation is resolved and CPS determines it's safe. I'll leave, David said immediately. I'll leave Vanessa. Today. Right now. Lily can come home. I'll take care of her. Whatever she needs. Please. She's all I have left. That's not your decision to make. CPS will determine the appropriate placement. What I need from you right now is your full cooperation. Are there cameras in your home? Yes. Security cameras, front door, backyard, and the kitchen. I need access to that footage. Specifically, footage from the past 2 months showing dinner time and any interactions in the kitchen. David pulled out his phone with shaking hands and accessed the security app. You can have whatever you need. Please, I need to see my daughter. I need to tell her I'm sorry. That can be arranged, but it'll be supervised by CPS. First, I need that footage. For the next hour, David Harper sat in that conference room while Officer Reeves and his colleague reviewed security camera footage. What they saw confirmed everything Lily had disclosed and worse. They watched Vanessa serve the girl tiny portions while serving larger portions to herself. They watched Lily ask for more food and be denied. They watched the child try to open the locked refrigerator at night, rattling the padlock before giving up and going back to bed. They watched Vanessa berate her for being wasteful, for being ungrateful, for being too soft and needy. And they watched David Harper arrive home late each evening, kiss his new wife, and remain oblivious to what was happening to his daughter. Officer Reeves felt no satisfaction in watching the man break down as he viewed the footage. There was no victory in seeing a father realize he'd been manipulated, that his desire for his daughter to have a mother figure had made him vulnerable to someone who had no business raising a child. I'm so stupid, David whispered, tears streaming down his face. I was so lonely after Sarah died. When I met Vanessa, she seemed perfect. She said all the right things about wanting to be a mother to Lily. She seemed so sure of herself. I thought I was giving Lily what she needed. A stable family. A mother. Mr. Harper, I need you to listen carefully. You're going to need to make some decisions very quickly. Your wife will be investigated for child abuse and neglect. Depending on what CPS determines, criminal charges may be filed. Your cooperation will be noted. Your choice to leave her and prioritize your daughter's safety will be noted. But you need to understand that you missed signs you should have seen. That's something you'll need to address. I know, David said brokenly. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy for Lily. Therapy for me. Whatever she needs. I just want my daughter back. Officer Reeves nodded. Then let's get you to the school. CPS is waiting. Back at Riverside Elementary, Lily sat in Dr. Morrison's office eating lunch that the principal had ordered from a nearby restaurant. Real food. Not just snacks. A turkey sandwich, apple slices, a cookie, and milk. Jennifer Santos sat with her, explaining in age-appropriate terms what was going to happen next. Your dad is coming to see you soon, Jennifer said. He's been talking to the police about what's been happening at home. He didn't know about the locks, Lily. He didn't know you were hungry. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Is he mad at me? No, sweetie. He's not mad at you at all. He's sad that he didn't see what was happening. He wants to make sure you're safe and taken care of. What about Vanessa? Vanessa won't be able to hurt you anymore. The police are going to talk to her about what she did, and you won't have to live with her again. Where will I live? Jennifer chose her words carefully. That depends on a few things. Ideally, you'll be able to live with your dad again, but in a different place without Vanessa. First, though, we need to make sure you're healthy and safe. You might need to see a doctor. Make sure the hunger hasn't caused any health problems. And you'll probably talk to a counselor. Someone who can help you with all the feelings you're having about everything that's happened. Will I have to go to foster care? Lily asked, her voice small. Maybe for a little while, just until everything is sorted out. But foster care isn't a punishment. It's just a safe place for kids to stay when their own home isn't safe. The foster families are nice people who want to help. Before Lily could respond, there was a knock on the door. Dr. Morrison opened it to reveal David Harper, flanked by Officer Reeves. The moment Lily saw her father, she burst into tears. Daddy! David crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees, gathering his daughter into his arms. He was crying too, his whole body shaking with sobs. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have protected you. I tried to tell you, Lily cried into his shoulder. I tried, but she said you'd be mad. I'm not mad at you. I could never be mad at you. This is my fault. I should have listened better. I should have paid attention. He pulled back just enough to look at her face, his hands gentle on her shoulders. Are you okay? Are you hurt? I'm just hungry all the time. And tired. I know, baby. I know. We're going to fix this. I promise you. I'm going to fix this. Jennifer cleared her throat gently. Mr. Harper, I'm Jennifer Santos from Child Protective Services. I know you want to take Lily home right now, but we need to follow protocol. First, Lily needs a medical evaluation to ensure she hasn't suffered any physical harm from the food deprivation. Then we need to determine appropriate placement. David wiped his eyes, trying to compose himself. I understand. What do I need to do? For now, you can stay with Lily while we take her to the hospital for evaluation. After that, we'll have a meeting to discuss next steps. You should know that we're recommending you be allowed to retain custody of your daughter, but not in the home you currently share with your wife. Do you have somewhere else you can go? My parents. They live about 20 minutes from here. They have plenty of room. Good. We'll need to do a home check there. Make sure it's appropriate, but that should be straightforward. In the meantime, you need to understand that you'll be required to participate in family counseling and parenting classes. Anything, David said fervently. I'll do anything. The rest of the day unfolded in a blur of activity. Lily was taken to the hospital, where doctors confirmed she was underweight for her age and height, showing signs of malnutrition and dehydration. They started her on a careful refeeding plan, warning that after prolonged food restriction, her body needed to readjust gradually to prevent refeeding syndrome. Meanwhile, Officer Reeves and another detective went to the Harper home to confront Vanessa. They found her in the kitchen, preparing what looked like a substantial dinner for herself. When they showed her their badges and informed her of the investigation, her composure cracked. That ungrateful little brat, she hissed. I was teaching her discipline. Do you know how spoiled American children are? They eat whatever they want, whenever they want. They grow up with no self-control. I was helping her. By locking the refrigerator? By denying her adequate nutrition? Officer Reeves kept his voice neutral despite his disgust. She's manipulative. She'd eat everything in sight if I let her. She needed to learn limits. Ms. Chen, you're being investigated for child abuse and neglect. I strongly suggest you stop talking and contact a lawyer. Vanessa's face went white. Abuse? I never hit her. I never. Intentionally depriving a child of food is abuse. You will likely be charged with child endangerment and neglect. You have the right to remain silent. As Officer Reeves read Vanessa her Miranda rights, he watched her expressions cycle through shock, anger, and finally fear. Good. She should be afraid. What she'd done to Lily was cruel and calculated, and she would face consequences for it. Over the following weeks, the pieces fell into place. David Harper immediately filed for divorce and obtained an emergency restraining order, preventing Vanessa from contacting him or Lily. He moved himself and his daughter into his parents' home, a warm, loving environment where Lily was surrounded by family who'd been horrified to learn what she'd endured. CPS closed their investigation with a finding of confirmed child neglect against Vanessa Chen, but cleared David Harper after determining he'd been genuinely unaware of the extent of his wife's actions. However, they mandated family counseling and parenting education, which David attended religiously. Lily began therapy with Dr. Rachel Kim, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma. In those sessions, the girl slowly learned that what had happened to her wasn't normal, wasn't her fault, and didn't reflect her worth. She learned to recognize that Vanessa's behavior stemmed from the woman's own issues, not from anything Lily had done wrong. The physical healing came relatively quickly. With access to adequate nutrition and medical supervision, Lily began gaining weight at a healthy rate. Her energy returned. The shadows under her eyes faded. She started sleeping through the night. The emotional healing took longer. For months, Lily struggled with anxiety around food, hoarding snacks in her room, terrified that someone would take them away. She had nightmares about being locked in empty rooms with padlocked doors. She flinched when anyone mentioned discipline or rules, but slowly, with therapy and her father's patient, loving support, she began to heal. David quit his job to take a position with more flexible hours, ensuring he'd be present for breakfast and dinner every day. He learned to listen more carefully, to watch for signs of distress he'd missed before. He rebuilt his daughter's trust one day at a time. At school, Miss Rodriguez remained a constant source of support. She kept snacks in her classroom and told Lily explicitly that she was always welcome to have food if she needed it, no questions asked. She celebrated small victories, when Lily laughed during story time, when she volunteered an answer in class, when she joined her friends at recess instead of sitting alone. Dr. Morrison checked in regularly, making sure Lily felt safe at school, that she knew adults were watching out for her. The principal also implemented new protocols for identifying food insecurity among students, training staff to recognize warning signs and respond appropriately. Vanessa Chen was charged with multiple counts of child endangerment and neglect. She eventually pleaded guilty to a reduced charge and received probation with mandatory counseling. But the criminal record remained. The divorce was finalized within 3 months, with David receiving full custody and Vanessa having no visitation rights. 6 months after that terrible Monday morning when Lily had broken down and confessed the truth, Ms. Rodriguez found the girl at her desk during indoor recess, drawing a picture. It showed a house with flowers in the front yard, a smiling sun overhead, and 3 stick figures holding hands. A tall one labeled Daddy, a medium one labeled Grandma, and a small one labeled Me. "That's beautiful, Lily," Ms. Rodriguez said warmly. Lily looked up with a smile that reached her eyes, something Ms. Rodriguez hadn't seen in months. "That's my new house. Well, Grandma and Grandpa's house, but we live there now. Grandma makes really good breakfasts, and she always asks if I want seconds." Ms. Rodriguez felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm so glad, sweetie." "Miss Rodriguez?" Lily's expression turned serious. "Thank you for believing me. And for the granola bars. And for telling Dr. Morrison." "You're welcome, honey. But you're the brave one. You told the truth even when it was scary. I'm proud of you." Lily considered this, then nodded slowly. "Dr. Kim says I saved myself by speaking up. She says sometimes being brave means asking for help. Dr. Kim is absolutely right." The girl returned to her drawing, adding a tree beside the house, its branches full of apples. Ms. Rodriguez watched her for a moment, marveling at children's resilience, at their capacity to heal and grow even after experiencing things that would break many adults. That evening, Dr. Morrison was locking up her office when she saw David Harper in the parking lot, clearly waiting for her. She approached cautiously, unsure what to expect. "Dr. Morrison," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I wanted to thank you for calling the police, for protecting my daughter when I failed to. Mr. Harper, I was doing my job. It was more than that. You could have waited, documented more, gone through more channels. You could have worried about liability or making a mistake. Instead, you trusted your instincts and you acted. Because of you, Lily is safe. She's healing. She's..." His voice broke. "She's laughing again. I can't tell you what that means to me." Dr. Morrison felt her own throat tighten. "How is she doing?" "Really? Better every day. She still has hard moments. Sometimes she wakes up from nightmares. Sometimes she gets anxious if dinner is delayed. But she's working with Dr. Kim and she's getting stronger. She's started to trust again." He paused. "I've learned a lot, too. About paying attention. About really seeing my child instead of assuming everything is fine. I won't ever take that for granted again." "That's good to hear," Dr. Morrison said gently. "You know, Mr. Harper, people make mistakes. What matters is what we do after we realize we've made them. You've done everything right since that day. You left a bad situation. You prioritized your daughter. You're getting help. That takes courage, too." David nodded, wiping his eyes. "Lily wants to do something for Ms. Rodriguez. To thank her. Would it be okay if we brought her something? Maybe during parent-teacher conferences? I think Ms. Rodriguez would love that." But I also think just seeing Lily happy and healthy is the greatest thanks she could ask for. We'll bring her something anyway. She deserves to know she made a difference. Dr. Morrison watched him walk back to his car, where Lily waited in the passenger seat. Through the window, she could see the girl reading a book, looking peaceful and content. The principal felt the satisfaction that came from knowing they'd done the right thing, that their intervention had genuinely changed a child's life for the better. Back in her office, Dr. Morrison updated Lily's file one last time, noting the successful resolution, the family's progress in therapy, the child's academic and emotional recovery. Then she closed the file and filed it away. Another case resolved, another child protected. But she knew she'd remember this one. Would remember the look on Lily's face when she'd whispered, "Please don't tell." Would remember the sound of her sobs when the truth finally came out. Would remember the feel of dialing 911 and knowing she was changing the trajectory of a little girl's life. And she knew that Miss Rodriguez would remember too. Would remember being the person Lily trusted enough to ask for help. Would remember holding a sobbing child who'd finally found the courage to speak her truth. Would remember that sometimes teaching meant more than lesson plans and spelling tests. It meant seeing children, really seeing them, and acting when something was wrong. 3 years later, Lily Harper stood at the front of her 5th grade classroom giving a presentation on heroes. She'd chosen to talk about everyday heroes, not superheroes with capes, but real people who made a difference in ordinary ways. "My hero is Ms. Rodriguez," she told her classmates confidently. "She was my 2nd grade teacher. I was going through something really hard, and she noticed. She helped me even though it was scary and complicated. She taught me that it's okay to ask for help, and that there are always people who care, even when you feel alone." In the back of the room, Miss Rodriguez sat wiping tears from her eyes. She'd been invited to attend the presentation, and watching Lily, now healthy, confident, thriving, felt like witnessing a miracle. The quiet, terrified 7-year-old had transformed into this articulate, self-assured 10-year-old who spoke about her trauma without shame, who'd turned her pain into perspective. After the presentation, Lily ran to Ms. Rodriguez and hugged her tightly. "Did I do okay?" "You were perfect, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." "I'm proud of me too," Lily said with a smile. "Dr. Kim says that's allowed." Ms. Rodriguez laughed through her tears. "Dr. Kim is very wise." David Harper approached them, his hand resting gently on his daughter's shoulder. He'd remarried a year ago to a kind woman named Laura, who'd embraced Lily as her own, who'd taken the time to build trust slowly, who understood that being a stepmother to a child who'd been hurt meant patience and unconditional love. "Thank you for coming," he said to Miss Rodriguez. "Lily's been planning this presentation for weeks. She really wanted you to be here. I wouldn't have missed it for the world." As Ms. Rodriguez drove home that evening, she thought about all the children she'd taught over the years, all the small moments of connection and care. She thought about how a granola bar and a willingness to listen had changed one little girl's life. She thought about how sometimes the most important thing a teacher could do had nothing to do with curriculum standards or test scores. Sometimes it was as simple as noticing, as simple as caring, as simple as believing a child when they finally found the courage to ask for help. And she thought about Lily, who'd survived something no child should have to survive, who'd found her voice when it mattered most, who'd turned her trauma into strength, who now stood at the front of classrooms and spoke about heroes and healing, offering hope to any other child who might be suffering in silence. That was the real victory. Not just that Lily had been saved, but that she'd learned she was worth saving, that she'd discovered her own strength, that she'd healed enough to help others heal. As the sun set over Riverside Elementary, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, the building settled into its evening quiet. In Ms. Rodriguez's classroom, a drawer still held emergency snacks for any child who might need them. In Dr. Morrison's office, procedures were in place to identify and help vulnerable students. In therapy offices and courtrooms across the county, people continued the work of protecting children, one case at a time. And in a house across town, Lily Harper sat at the dinner table with her father, her stepmother Laura, and her baby sister, who'd been born 6 months ago. They passed dishes and talked about their days, laughing and teasing and being a family. The refrigerator stood unlocked in the kitchen, accessible anytime Lily wanted a snack. The pantry shelves were stocked with food she could reach freely. After dinner, Lily helped Laura with the dishes while David gave the baby a bath. As she dried the plates, Lily caught her reflection in the kitchen window, a healthy, happy 10-year-old who'd survived and thrived. "What are you smiling about?" Laura asked gently. "Just remembering," Lily said. "How far I've come. How different things are now." Laura wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You're pretty amazing, you know that." "I know," Lily said simply, without arrogance but with genuine self-knowledge. "Dr. Kim and I have been working on that. Knowing my worth. Well, you're doing a great job." Later, as Lily lay in bed with a full stomach and a peaceful heart, she thought about her presentation, about calling Ms. Rodriguez a hero. But she also thought about what Dr. Kim had told her recently, that she was her own hero too. That by speaking up, by asking for help, by refusing to accept that hunger and fear were normal, she'd saved herself. The little girl who'd begged her teacher for food had become a young woman who understood her own strength. The child who'd been locked away from nourishment had learned to nourish herself, not just with food, but with self-respect, boundaries, and the knowledge that she deserved better. And somewhere in the darkness, in houses and apartments across the city and beyond, other children might be suffering in silence. But Lily's story offered them hope. Proof that speaking up mattered, that adults could help, that healing was possible, that no lock was permanent, and no hunger lasted forever if you found the courage to ask for help. The moon rose over Riverside Elementary, its light spilling through classroom windows, touching empty desks where tomorrow children would sit and learn and grow. And in that school, teachers and staff would continue their quiet work of watching, noticing, caring, ready to act when a child needed help, ready to be the difference between suffering and salvation. Because sometimes all it took was one person paying attention, one person believing, one person making a phone call, one person deciding that a child's safety mattered more than anything else. And sometimes that was everything.